Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back. Today's Daf is Kesubos Ayin Daled. We pick up where we left off yesterday, at the 7th line from the top of the Amid. So we had a machlokes between Rav and Shmuel. In the following case, a person was Mekadesh Isha. I don't want you to have Nidarim when you come into my family. So he said that at the point of Kiddushin, but he never mentioned anything when he actually married her. Totally omitted any reference to his previous Tanai. What happens now? Rav says she is considered married. Shmuel says she is not. Up until this point, we had two ways to understand this machlokes: Abaye and Rabbah. Abaye's approach was the reason why Rav considers her married. Ein adam oisa bi'ilasa. Bi'ilas is nus. A person tries to avoid improper interaction with an Isha. The fact that he interacted with her physically upon marriage makes it into a new relationship. It starts, so to speak, a new slate. So the condition that was applicable at the Kiddushin point was not applicable now. He was willing to actually be Mekadesh anew, so that his interaction is proper within the context of marriage. She's a married woman who requires a get if and when she decides to leave him. Shmuel disagreed with that concept. He said the same rules that apply to the Kiddushin, it was on condition that you have no Nidarim, that applies to the marriage as well. Therefore, in this case, she misled him, no marriage. That's Abaye's approach. Rabbah learned differently. He was speaking about a very specific type of scenario where two events occur, two separate phases happened. He was Mekadesh with a Tanai, divorced her, and then retook her without discussion, without making any reference to that Tanai. Here, and only in this case, would Rav say, why did you ignore their entire concept of Nadarim? Why didn't you mention it? Apparently, you gave up on it. And in this case, and only in this type of case, would Rav say, she's now married to him. Says the Gemara on the 7th line from the top, Itmar Nami. We have another Amoira who is in sync with Rabbah's approach to this sugya. Itmar Nami, Amar Acha bar Yaakov, Amar Yechanan. And again, Rabbah is of the opinion that if it was in one swoop, he was Mekadesh with a Tanai, which was not fulfilled, and then he proceeded straight into marriage without discussing the Tanai, it doesn't work. It is presumed that he's marrying with that same mindset. I don't want a nether. The only time it can work, according to Rav, is if it was a two-phase process. He was Mekadesh with a Tanai, but then divorced her, and then retook her, without making any mention of that Tanai. Here we have grounds, we have reason to assume that he's ignoring that Tanai, he's giving it up. And the same pshat was adopted by this man, the Omar. Amar Ba'acha bar Yaakov, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, HaMekadesh al Tanai u'Baal. He was Mekadesh and Isha with a condition. On condition that you don't have Nidarim. Even if you proceeded with marriage, u'Baal, you got involved with her physically, get, all agree, no get is needed. If it turns out that she did not fulfill her part of the agreement, if she did not keep her Tanai. Clearly, even though there was a Baal, it doesn't matter, because it is presumed to have been done with the same type of mindset as per the Kiddushin, which was conditioned upon a certain Tanai. So the only time it can theoretically work is if he was Megarisher, so he terminated that relationship, so to speak, and retook her, remarried her without discussing any Tanai. Now, perhaps you can say he didn't care about the Tanai, but otherwise, he was Mekadesh on Tanai and then was Baal without discussing the Tanai. It's assumed that he still wants the Tanai to be applied. Esvei Rab Acha. Rab Ika Bar Achte. So Rabbi Ika was his nephew, Bar Achse, the son of his sister, of Rav Acha Bar Yaakov's sister. I have a kasha on you. You're telling me that when I do a Maisa later on, it must be consistent with the previous Tanai. We don't view it anew. Right? I have a kasha. Chalitza mutas kshira. It's a brisa. If one was tricked into doing a chalitza to a yavama, he wanted to really be miyabim her and they didn't want him. So they tricked him into doing the chalitza. It works. Eizo hi chalitza mutas. Oh, what exactly is? How do we define mutas? There are two ways. Omresh lakish. Kol sha'imr lo chalitzla. We tell him, look, you do chalitza, ubekach kainza. That's a way of acquiring her. So we're misleading him, we're fooling him, because really he's meant to do the chalitza, we're allowed to do this. To get him to do it, and once he does the chalitza, she's free to go. That's Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yehuda, he disagrees. It wouldn't work if he has something else in mind. Ani Shaina, I have a halacha that bein sheneskaven hu v'lo neskaven hi, whether a case where he is trying to do the chalitza, and she is not being mechaven, she's not being mindful of what's happening. Bein sheneskaven hi v'lo neskaven hu, or she is focused and he's not. Chalitza psula, it doesn't work. Achi iskavnu shneim ke'echad. They both have to have kavana. V'at amrus chalitza kshera, and you're proposing that if you fool him into it, you get him to do the chalitza thinking that it's a yibum, it works? Of course not. Ela amar Rabbi Yechanan. Rather, says Rabbi Yechanan, you know what the brisa meant when it said chalitza mutas kshera? Of course, he was trying to do chalitza, but he thought he's going to make some money on it. We tell him, chalitza, you be a nice fellow, you do chalitza, you'll get paid for it. This is on condition that she pays you 200 zuz. He does the chalitza and never sees the money. It works. Why? How come you don't have to fulfill that condition? Alma apparently kivan the avad masa. Since he actually did a masa of chalitza, and as Tosfos points out, when he actually was involved in the masa, he failed to make any reference to his tanai that he mentioned earlier. The assumption is the masa canceled the tanai. Right? So Tosfos asks, what do you mean? So, how can the tanai ever work? I make a tanai and I make a transaction that follows a tanai. So a tanai expires just because I did a masa afterwards. So he says, no. The Gemara at this point figured that in order for the tanai to take effect, it has to be mentioned at the moment of the masa, as opposed to this case where, sure, he was promised 200 zuz 10 minutes ago, but when he actually did the chalitza, nobody mentioned it again. So the masa sort of overrides the tanai, and we ignore the tanai. Hachanami here as well. In the case of the isha, or the nadarim, right? He made a tanai, I'm engaging you on condition you don't have a neder in your life. You're not loaded with nadarim. She did have nadarim. And he proceeded, he married her, he was baal her without discussing nadarim again. Hachanami, given the baal, achli l'tanai. Once he does the maisa, that maisa overrides the tanai. It's stronger than the tanai. This is action, and that's only words. So even in this case, you should say that the kedushin works, that the marriage works, and she needs a get. She's basically asking a kasha. Rav Acha bar Yaakov, who was in line with Rabbah, explained that this whole idea of a Rav, that even if the Tanai was not fulfilled, she still is considered an Eshes Ish. That's only in a very specific case where he engaged her and then divorced her and retook her without discussing the Tanai. But if it's one continuous process, you made a condition with a Tanai and then proceeded into marriage without interruption, proceeded straight into marriage. Even if you haven't discussed the Tanai at that very moment of marriage, the Tanai is still applicable. There's a kasha from a Braisa, from Rabbi Yehuda, from Chalitza, we see that a Mas, which does not have a Tanai stipulated along with the Masa, then we ignore the Tanai, which was previously laid about, because the Masa without the Tanai is stronger. Amar lei Babirav. So one of the Talmidim in the yeshiva responded to the one that was asking this kasha. Shapik Amris? Is what you're saying true and correct? The way you're interpreting the halacha here, that the chalitza without the Tanai is stronger than the Tanai because a Masa is stronger. Actually, that is not the reason why the chalitza works. Why? Michti, let's take a close look. Kol Tanai meicha gamrinan. Where is the source for the concept of making a Tanai, making a condition? Tanai bnei Gad bnei Reuven. Right? When the Shvatim of bnei Gad bnei Reuven wanted to stay, outside on the other side of the Jordan River, Moshe Rabbeinu made a Tanai, made a deal. Look, you'll get the territory there, but on condition that you come help your brethren when they wage war. The concept of Tanai is rooted in that story, in that episode. And therefore, says the Gemara, for a Tanai to have legal standing, it must be comparable to that Tanai that we find in the Torah, and work according to the same guidelines. If in fact we're speaking about a Tanai, a Masa, that can be brought about through an emissary, through a third person, just like over there. Moshe Rabbeinu could have given them the territory through Yeshua, his shliach. Have itno. So this type of situation allows, it enables conditioning. But if it's something like chalitza, which you cannot do through a third party, it's personal. The Yavam has to personally perform the chalitza. You can't do it through a shliach. So it's dissimilar to the story in the Chumash. Lo have it to know. So you can't apply a Tanai to this type of deal. Asks Tosfos, what kind of svar is this? I mean, if you're comparing it to the Bnei Gad, so perhaps it only applies. Tanai can only be applied to allocating territory. I mean, it has to have some sort of svara, says Tosfos. So he says like this: the svara is, if it's something that I can perform through a shliach, that indicates that it's under my control. It's biyada. It's something that I control, that I manipulate, that I direct. I can do it through a shliach as well. So then I can apply a Tanai to it. It's in my hands to tweak it, to arrange it, to manipulate according to my needs, as opposed to something which I cannot do through a shliach. It's something very personal and absolute and defined. It does not allow for manipulation and tweaking and rearrangement and Tanaim. Interesting Tosfos. So bottom line is, sure, the chalitza works because even though he was promised the world, 200 zuz, and he didn't get it, doesn't matter. You can't make a Tanai by chalitza to begin with. So it has nothing to do with our sugya that a Tanai was not actualized, it was cancelled. The Tanai never took off in the first place. Asks the Gemara, really? Tanai only works with something that you can perform through a third person. V'habiyah. Interaction with a woman. That's personal. You can't do it through a shliach kihasam like the story of Bnei Gad. You can't. It's not comparable. And we find that a Tanai works. We had this yesterday. He's boiled the isha manas that the father's okay. Why does Tanai apply in such a case? Answers the Gemara. Well, once we know that v'mekalish isha through kesef or through shtar, which can be done through a shliach, allows for Tanai. So all the different forms of Mekadesh and Isha compared to each other, all different forms of marriage, whether it's Kesev, Shtar, or Bia, are compared to each other, it's based on a pasuk. So whatever applies to one applies to the other. If Tanai applies to Kesev, it applies to Bia as well. Here comes yet a third approach to the Machlekes Rav Shmuel, which we had yesterday. Amar Rav Ula bar Abba Amar Ula Amar Belazar Hamakadesh b'milva ubal. You see, he holds even if Kedushin was conditioned and that condition was not kept, but if they proceeded to Baal, the condition expires. A person does not want his interaction to be inappropriate and znus. This whole discussion that we had, Rav and Shmuel, that's when they only got as far as marriage, as chuppah. But if there was actual physical interaction, all conditions are off the table. That's Ula's approach. Hamakalish b'milva. Suppose the Isha owes him some money. There's a loan between them, and he gives it up. He gives up he forgives the loan. We know that doesn't work for Kedushin because he didn't actually give her something tangible. This is a sugya Mesechus Kedushin. So he made that type of ineffective Kedushin, Ubal, but then he proceeded and did Baal. Or another example, Al Tanai Ubal. He did a condition and condition was not kept, but he proceeded with Baal. Bipachas Mishaver Pruta Ubal. He gave her less than a Pruta, which is not a proper Kedushin, and he did a Baal. Divrei HaKoil, Tzricha, Hemenu Get, according to this approach, all Shittas, whether Rav or Shmuel hold, that she's a married woman, she needs a get. A person is not willing to have his interaction inappropriate, znus. Once he did Baal, his mindset is, look, even if the Kedushin was not effective, I want this to become the Kedushin, I want it to be my wife, then I'll divorce if he needs to. Amar Rav Yosef bar Abba, Amar Rav Nachem, Amar Rav Ami. He disagrees slightly. He says, "Hamakadosh b'pachas mishava pruta ubal tzricha menuget." I agree with you on this case. If you gave her less than a pruta and then did Baal, she's married, because he understood that a penny is worthless, and the Baal was l'shem kedushin. Baha, in this case, hudaleitai, there was no room for mistake. He understood his kedushin was worthless, and the Baal made the kedushin. Aval bahanach toy, but in the other cases, milva and tanai, perhaps he was unaware of the fact that his original kedushin doesn't work. So who's to say that he wants his Baal to be a kedushin? So only in this case does it work. Amar Rav Kahana, Shmei Ula. Here we have another quote from Ula, which is consistent with the previous quote from Ula. Hamakadash al Tnayu Baal tzricha menu get. Even though the kedushin was with a Tnai which did not pan out, but since there was Baal, she's married, needs a get. Zehayamas. In fact, it was a story as such. Chachamim did not have the ability to let her go without a get. They applied a get in this case. La'afuki mehaitana. This whole discussion is opposed to the following shita, which holds that if there was a Tanai, the Tanai did not get actualized, she's not a married woman, despite the fact that they lived as married. The Amar Rabbi Yehuda Mashmur Bishmal. Pasuk says a married woman who was involved with a stranger, it was a willing interaction. She was loyna tfasa. She wasn't grabbed by the other person. She's usher to her husband. So we have a diuk. Hana tfasa muteris. But if she was grabbed, she's mutter to go back home. Now the pasuk has the word vihi to indicate this is typical. This is their standard case. Nitfasa is usher. Otherwise she's mutter. But there is another case. There's another similar situation, v'yesh l'cha acheres, which does not have to live up to these guidelines. V'yesh l'cha acheres, we have another case, she'af al pi shelo nitfasa muteris. A married woman, strayed, was involved with a stranger without nitfasa, without being forced, she can go back home. How can you have such a situation? Ve'ezoi. What is that? Zu shekedusha kedusha to'is. Here's the case. You have an Isha married, based on a certain condition that was stipulated at the point of Kiddushin, which did not pan out. So she's married for 10 years. It turns out that the Kiddushin was invalid. Shafilu b'na murkav al kseifa, even if she has a son riding on her shoulders. She's married for many years with children. She just turn around and leave him. Clearly, this Tana holds, even if there was physical interaction between them, it's irrelevant because it was based on a given notion, which was stipulated at the point of Kedushin, which did not pan out. She's not a married woman. So in this case, theoretically, if she was involved with another man during her tenure with her husband, and then it turns out that the whole marriage never happened, she's not a Zaina. She can go back and remarry that first husband. Okay, so just let's clarify the last shtickle Gemara. Let's summarize. We had Machlokes Rav Shmuel in a case where he made a Tanai by Kedushin, but then he married without a Tanai. What happens? Rav says she's married. Shmuel says she's not. We had Abaye who says it's totally in the question of whether a person is interested in a bilas nus or not. Rav says no way, and therefore his interaction turns into a new Kedushin. Shmuel says it was based on the previous notion: no Tanai, no Kedushin, no marriage. Rabbah says we're speaking about a very specific case. He was Mekadesh with a Tanai, divorced her, and then retook her without discussion. Here there's a question of whether perhaps he gave up on the Tanai. That's Rav's approach. And in fact, this approach was backed up by another Amora today. Then we had the third Pshat, which is really like Ula's Pshat here, that all would agree. Even Shmuel would agree if there was a Be'ilah. He keeps away from his nose. Of course, it's a brand new marriage, irrespective of the fact that she did not fulfill her commitment in terms of being Mekayim the Tanai at the point of Kedushin. When does Shmuel say it's not a marriage? When it was just chuppah, it was just marriage without bia. But bia, sort of changes it around and turns it into a new marriage, in which case she needs a get. Tan Rabbanan will enter the Bryce. Holcha etzel chacham v'yitira. This fellow made it tonight. I'm marrying you on condition that you're not carrying nedarim with you. You have no oaths, you have no restrictions, you have no vows. It turns out she has nedarim, but she runs to the chacham who has the ability to be matir the nether, to undo the nether. Mekudeshes. Okay, now she's safe. It works, even though she came into the marriage full of nedarim. Fact is, going forward, she has no nedarim. But etzel reife b'ripoi. Let's say she had physical, deficiencies. He made a condition: I don't want, these things. She comes in with these issues, but then runs to a doctor to heal her. It doesn't work. What's the difference? In both cases, she misled him. She did not conform to his conditions. She had nedarim. She had deficiencies. What's the difference between one and the other? The answer is very simple. Keep in mind that a chacham, when he nullifies a neder, it's not going forward. You see, you approach him, you tell him, look, had I known this is going to be an issue, I would have never made the neder. So you're undoing the original, notion, so to speak. You're nipping it at the bud, retroactively. So even though it was done now, but it gets applied retroactively, so it turns out she never had a neder, so she's safe. As opposed to a reife, that's going forward. It doesn't undo it lemafreya. V'reife eina merafe ela makan laba. But at the time of Kedushin, she was unwell. It's not a Kedushin. Asks the Gemara. So by mater neder it works. Vatani, we have a brayso that it doesn't work. Eitzel chacham v'yitira, eitzel reife v'ripa isa. Both cases, eina mekudeshes. Amarava. Like Kasha, the answer is Ha Rabbi Meir. The brayso that going to a reif, to a chacham undoes it retroactively, in which case she's safe and it works. That's Rabbi Meir, who doesn't mind an isha going to the bezdin. The husband, he doesn't care if the isha goes to the chacham. It's fine. Ha Rabbi Lezer, the brayso which indicates otherwise, is Rabbi Lezer. Explains the Gemara. Ha Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir holds the Amar Adam Roitzushet is Baze Ishte bebezdin. The husband is not too particular about his wife going and shaming herself and by the bezdin in public and undoing her nedarim. He's okay with that. It's your business. It's your choice. So even if she had to resort to going to the bezdin to undo the neder, it works. It's okay. is consistent with his wishes, and once it's done, Lamafreya, it turns out she never had the neder, and the Kedushin was Chal. As opposed to Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Lezer, the other Bryce, is Rabbi Lezer. The person is not willing to allow his wife to go embarrass herself in public and take care of her vows. So if she entered the marriage with vows, even if she has a way out, she can go to the Chacham to undo it. He doesn't want it. He's not interested in embarrassing his wife like that. It stigmatizes him as well. He's not interested. So, it's not a Kedushin. Where do we find these two shittas? Mahi. This none. We have a Mishnah Maseches Git. Hamoitis ishte mishim neder. This fellow says, look, I hear that you have all kinds of nedarim. I'm not interested. So he divorces her. Lo yachser, you should know, you can't take her back. Mishum shemra, lo yachser. Likewise, if he divorces his isha because there are some bad reputations about her, you should know, lo yachser, you can't take her back. And Rashi brings, according to one shot in the Gemara, the concern is that he might have second thoughts. And therefore we tell him in advance, look, you should know, you're making a final decision. Don't ever come back and complain. You cannot say, down the road, you can't say, had I known that I can take care of the neder with the chacham and undo it, I would never have divorced her, never in my life. You should know, you're making a decision for all time. The same thing with the Moitzi Shemra. You can never come back and say, well, it turns out that these were just unfounded, false rumors. Had I known, I never would have divorced her. We tell him, look, before you do it, think into it, investigate the matter. It's a final decision. Otherwise, you can run into trouble down the line. So that is the first shita. Shitas Tanakama. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, all depends. Kol neder sheyadu by rabim leyachsher. Halacha is a person makes a neder b'rabim in public. It becomes like part of the public record. You can't undo that neder. Whether it's in front of 3 people, in front of 10, we'll see soon in the Gemara. So if his isha was purported to make an nedarim out in the street, so Rashi brings it's pritzit, it's inappropriate, it's not sneers to convey your private matters in public. So in this case, we apply a penalty. If the divorces are based on that issue, you can't take her back. That's it, she's out. Hamoitzi, Rabbi Yehuda Omer called neder sheyadu by rabim. If it's a neder that is publicly known, that's inappropriate. Lo yachser, he shouldn't be taking her back. Lo yadu by rabim yachser, but if it's not something which is publicly known, he can take her back. Rabbi Omer, he has a different perspective on this halach. Kol neder shetzorach chakiras chacham lo yachser. If the reason for the get was because she made a neder which requires approaching a chacham to discuss it, to undo it, in that case we say lo yachser. You're divorcing her because of that. You're not going to take her back. Why? So Rashi explains. Rameir's concern is that he might turn around and say, "Ooh, had I known that." That the Chacham could have taken care of this neder, I would never have divorced you. So we tell him, be careful. You're going to divorce her, it's a final deal. But if it's just a personal neder between husband and wife, something that the husband can himself nullify, he can do a first nedarim. So in that case, there's no chashash of him turning around and regretting it. He can't. What can he claim? If I would have known, it's something personal. You could be made for. You chose not to interfere with the neder, and you divorced her instead. Too bad on you. You can never turn around and regret what you did. She might get married to somebody else, and he'll come around and say, no, she's my wife. I never had this in mind. You can't do that. You knew full and well this is a personal nedarim, nefesh, something that you could have taken care of yourself. Why didn't you? Apparently you weren't interested in her. That's it. So he never has a claim against to undo his get. Amar Belezer, lo yasru tzarech el b'pnei she'ein tzarech. Rabbi Lezer has yet a fourth approach to this halacha. He says, really, one is not willing to allow his wife to embarrass herself in the bezdin, to seek, they have Varas Nadarim in public. So, if we're discussing a serious neder, which requires tending to by the bezdin, by the chacham, he can never turn around and say, well, had I known that she could address it in bezdin, I would never have divorced her. Because the truth is, you don't want your wife to go to bezdin. So you can never claim otherwise. The only reason why the chachamim tell us that if grounds for divorce was a neder that requires bezdin, you should know once you divorce you can't take her back. The only reason why they made that isser, they made it absolute, because it might lead to another case where her neder was not something which was so serious, which needed a chacham's attention, something personal the husband could have taken care of. And then there's a real concern that he might turn around and regret what he did. He'll say, had I known that I could have been made for a neder, I never would have divorced her. Now I know, I'm being mevatel the get. So according to Rabbi Lezer, if it's a serious neder that requires bezdin, he can never say that. Because the truth is, you would not have wanted her to go to bezdin. So you can't claim otherwise. But it might lead to another case where it's a personal neder that he could have done it himself, and then I'll say, well, had I known, I would have done it. I want her back. Okay, so bottom line is, from the whole Mishnah, you see that there's Reb Meir who says that a husband does not mind if his wife goes to bezdin, and Reb Lezer disagrees. My time with Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda told us a halacha, interesting halacha. If you make a neder, berabim, you can never undo it. How do we know this? The Chsiv, this was by the Givonim, this nation that sort of tricked Yeshua. They pretended to be from an area outside Eretz Yisrael, and they came from afar to make peace, and they were taken. The Jews were taken by the ruse, and they swore to them. They said, "We're not going to harm you." And then it was discovered that they were just imposters. They were locals in disguise. They didn't strike them because the leaders of the nation had already sworn to them. The question is, why couldn't they just undo the neder, undo the shvuah? It was based on false pretenses. There's an easy way out there, apparently, because it was barabim. It becomes part of the public domain. You can't just go undo that. V'kama rabbim. What is considered a rabbim? We have a machlokes. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar Shloisha 3. As we find in the pasuk by the Zavav, she has dam for yamim rabbim, and we darshan yamim means shnayim, plural is 2, and the rabbim means another day 3. So we see that rabbim is 3. Rav Yitzchak Amar Asara, you need to have 10 people around at the neder. Eda Ksibu, as we see in this pasuk, Kenish B'lem Nesiya Eda, the leaders of the Eda. The pasuk specifically uses the word Eda to indicate the number which is referred to by the word Eda is required. Eda means 10, as we find by the Meraglim. La'eda hara azois, which is actually the source for the halacha. They need 10 people by a minyan. So Eda is 10 people. Let's go back to Reb Meir Rabbi Lezer for a moment. Reb Meir Omer called neder shetzarach chakiras chacham l'yachzer. He says, look, we're concerned that he might be makalkal isha. He's going to give her a neder, send her off, she'll marry somebody else. He'll come around and he'll say, 1 second, I have second thoughts. This is not what I meant. This is a neder that I could have taken care of with the chacham. I could have undone it. I would never have divorced you. So we tell him, be careful, le'yachzer. It's a done deal. You'll never take it back. This way, he can never come and complain. Because, again, Reb Meir is based on the idea that a person is really willing to allow his wife to go to bezdin. So that would allow him to come complain. I would have done it. We tell him, no, be careful, it's a done deal. Just the opposite. A person is not interested in having his wife embarrass herself in public. The only reason why they don't allow this fellow to take her back in a case where she made a serious neder which requires a chacham's involvement is not because he can complain straight out, I would have done things otherwise. You would not have done things otherwise. You would not have done a chakiras chacham. You would not have allowed it to go to bezdin. It's only because it might lead to another case where it was a very personal neder that does not require professional attention. And he could say, look, had I known that I can do it myself, I would have taken care of the neder and never divorced her. But if it's a neder that requires a professional chacham's involvement, in that case he has no claim because he wouldn't really want his wife to go to Bezdin to begin with. What's the point of machlokes? Rameya savar adam roitze shetis baze ishte bebezdin. Rameya says a person is willing to allow his wife to run to Bezdin, take care of her nedarim. Releza disagrees. Releza savar ein adam roitze shetis baze ishte bebezdin. So the bottom line is we have a terrorist tower kasha because we had the halacha of an isha who comes into the marriage with nedarim or blemishes, contrary to the the t'nai that was set forth at the point of kiddushin. So when it comes to refuah, we say, well, it's going forward. It doesn't really address your condition at the point of kiddushin. You were in non-compliance of your t'nai, no kiddushin. When it comes to nedarim, we look at it differently because the neder is undone retroactively. So according to one brisa, it works. According to the other brisa, it doesn't. The Gemara says the machlokes is based on whether or not a person is interested in having his wife be mevazer herself on Bezdin. That's her mayor. The other brisa disagrees, which is according to Shita Rabbi Lazar, ein adam roitze shetis baze ishte bebezdin. This is not what I had in mind, and therefore there's no kedushin. All the best to you, and atzlacha rabbah.